Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. My name is Scott Reisch, and this is Crime Talk. Thanks for watching. Let's get straight to the docket today. First, Ghislaine Maxwell better hope that agreement that covered her boss in Florida applies to her. Otherwise, she's in some big trouble. Second, oh, the tangled webs we weave when we try to deceive. Third, a young officer is in big trouble in New York. Just because you want to doesn't mean you can. It could get you arrested. I waited to talk about this until they were caught, and now our dumb criminal contestant of the day. Let's talk about it. Good day, Crime Talk aficionados. This is Crime Talk. My name is Scott Reisch. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you taking the time. Please hit that subscribe button and also hit that little bell so that you receive notifications of when we put up new content or go live. And please don't forget to go back and watch some of the stuff we've done this past week. But if you can't and you just want to hit the highlights, we'll have the recap up tomorrow. First on the docket, Ghislaine Maxwell. We all know who she is. Well, she better hope that she is covered by the non-prosecution agreement that her boss signed, because otherwise she's in big trouble. Now, a lot of documents have been coming out of a civil case that was settled back in 2017, and people are trying to get those documents released, and the judge keeps releasing them. Well, if the statements in that civil case obviously led to a settlement of some kind, we don't know exactly what, but needless to say, those same victims from the civil case are the victims in the criminal case. And guess what? It means those statements, those victims are locked into their statements. They can't now change them. They can't say, oh, I don't want to play along in the criminal case anymore. And it's not good for Miss Maxwell for sure. It's basically she was, as alleged, and we'll give her the presumption of innocence, but it looks like, allegedly, she was basically pimping young children for that guy named Jeff. She would recruit kids from high schools. She would basically encourage them to perform sexual acts, obviously with that guy named Jeff, along with a list of other people. Now, obviously, the list that we would like to see are the list of people that went and engaged in criminal conduct with these young girls at the residence down in Florida or down in the Bahamas or in New Mexico. That's the list that people should be really interested in. And like I said, in the past, it's interesting that so few of those names have ever come out. That is the one card that Ghislaine Maxwell has to play. And if she is going to do it, I would think she would do it either A, now, or B, right after her motions hearing, because I don't think there's actually going to be a trial in this particular case. But we'll see if Miss Maxwell wants to air all the dirty laundry. She is basically looking at a life sentence if convicted. So what does she really have to lose? Next on the docket, oh, the tangled webs we weave when we try to deceive. You can't make this stuff up, ladies and gentlemen. A now former Texas police chief has been arrested for faking documents to facilitate affairs with mistresses. Now, the married former police chief is accused of faking an annulment document to trick one of his mistresses into believing that he would soon be able to be married. When she tried to verify the document, she went viral and discovered he was dating yet another woman who was not his wife. The former police chief, Jason Collier, 41, and of course, an ordained minister who's married with 4 children, is charged with tampering with government documents with the intent to defraud, and that is a felony. He had been placed on administrative leave, and his resignation followed shortly thereafter. As it turns out, the mistress, Cecily Steinmetz, was seeing now former police chief Collier. She was putting her photos up, basically announcing her engagement. And lo and behold, what happened? Through a mutual friend, another lady said, "Hey, that's odd because I'm involved with that guy and we're supposed to be getting married as well." So as it turns out, Mr. Collier's mistresses, as it turns out, the two brides-to-be reached out and made contact with each other. They wrote on their Facebook pages that Chief Jason Collier is living a double/triple life. I was his girlfriend until yesterday. He lied to me and presented me with fake annulment documents when I found out he was married. I also found out about a second girlfriend, Christy, last night. He lied to us, our children, and asked us both to marry him. Clearly, this goes into the can't make this up category when the police chief, who is a minister with a wife and 4 kids, is trying to get engaged with 2 other women. Wow. Can you come up with a better segue than to talk about CrimeTalkSearch.com? What have I said? People live double lives, triple lives in this case. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. If you're going to be getting involved with somebody, maybe you are involved with somebody and it just doesn't seem right. That's right. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. You can sign up for a background subscription service. Obviously, there's a nominal fee, but then you can search anonymously. A report is generated and it's going to have information, important information, like, marriage records, divorce records, social media records, anything related to phone numbers, emails, criminal history, everything that you want to know about somebody before you say yes. Trust your gut. Go to CrimeTalkSearch.com. Don't take someone's word for it. You'll be happy you did. Could save you a lot of embarrassment having to post on Facebook that, hey, the guy I was dating or the woman I was dating was living a triple life. You'll be happy you did. Please go check it out. It's a small fee. We use it in our law practice every day. Next on the docket, a New York Police Department officer is in some big trouble. Officer Carmine Simpson, 26, targeted vulnerable children on Twitter between the ages of 13 and 17, often requesting pornographic content. That's according to the United States attorney that is prosecuting Mr. Simpson. It's alleged that Mr. Simpson would pose as a 17-year-old on social media to solicit these photos, and he did this to at least 46 minors, according to the federal agents. Needless to say, Mr. Simpson has been charged not only with the production, but the distribution of child pornography. Mr. Simpson is being held in federal detention without bail pending trial. He faces a minimum of 15 years in prison. And according to the NYPD, Officer Simpson is no longer with them and called the allegations reprehensible. Obviously, we give everyone the presumption of innocence, but apparently his boss and employer, the NYPD, is not. Next on the docket, just because you want to doesn't mean you can. We've all had that worker that we would like to have maybe pushed off a roof because they weren't working hard enough. Well, guess what? William Cox did it. I'm not sure whether to just put my hands in my head and say, I can't believe you did that, or maybe shake his hand. We've all wanted to do it, but guess what, Mr. Cox? You can't. Why? Because it's criminal, particularly when they break their leg when they fall off of the building. Mr. Cox reportedly pushed the victim and also threatened his life because he was working too slowly as a roofer. Apparently, Mr. Cox maybe needs to just take a breath, let it go. He couldn't do that. Now he's in custody and charged with assault. We've all wanted to do something like that, but I'm telling you, you can't. It's a crime. Just like Mr. Cox wanted to harm a coworker, a teacher in Kentucky has been arrested for trying to hire someone to kill his own mother. All right? Now, even if you've thought about it, you can't act upon it. And you can't have somebody do what you can't do yourself. And you can't ask somebody else to knock off your mom for $10,000. You also have to assume that the person that you're going to be telling this to, this solicitation, is either A, a police officer, or B, going to tell the police so that they don't get in trouble. And that's exactly what happened. And Billy Reynolds, who is a school bus driver and teacher, was arrested yesterday afternoon. And he apparently didn't like his mom much. Officers became aware of the alleged murder plot this week. Apparently, Mr. Reynolds lived next door to his mother. He now faces a potential sentence of 20 years in prison. It's not exactly clear why he wanted to do this to his mother, but needless to say, he took it rather serious. A possible motive could be that there was a legal dispute between his mother over deeds to property that she owned. Mr. Reynolds sued his mother last November in this disagreement over property rights. Mr. Reynolds claimed that he was entitled to the house and that she could live there as long as she remained alive. Mr. Reynolds will obviously get the presumption of innocence by CrimeTalk, that's for sure. You never know the credibility of these people that go to the police and say people are involved in solicitation plans. So we'll just wait and see. But somehow I think Mr. Reynolds may wind up with a conviction in this particular case. All right, next, I waited to talk about this case until these two inmates had been caught. Well, 5 days ago, two Arizona inmates escaped. John Charpat and David Harmon, who are both serving basically life sentences, escaped from prison. The manhunt involved door-to-door searches of around 800 homes until they were finally caught. Needless to say, the police thought that they needed to put a lot of focus in catching these two men because they were both violent sex offenders. When the escaped inmates were found, one of them apparently said, "Just shoot me." The other officers used their taser devices to subdue the inmates. Needless to say, they will be returned to the Arizona Department of Corrections, and they will face escape charges. And as I have mentioned before, kind of like bank robbery, escape is one of the few crimes where people actually ever succeed because they kind of take it a little personal when people try to leave prison until their appropriate release date. And when you're a dangerous criminal, guess what? They're coming after you. Now, our dumb criminal contestant of the week. A quick recap of our contestants thus far so that you can keep them all in perspective when you're doing your voting. First, we have Ronaldo Leonard, who stole the ambulance and then took it to the Jack in the Box drive-thru to order some food. Tuesday, Joshua Schenker stole a police car while naked and lying on the ground, and then jumped in the police car and ultimately was arrested. Then we had Alexander Jenke, who got the car stuck in the yard that he was burglarizing, and the owner came out to help him, not realizing that he had burglarized a shed, and he was ultimately arrested. Then we had Edner Flores, who was robbing a bank in Chicago and gave the teller his ID for the withdrawal slip. Yep, you can't make it up. And today's dumb criminal contestant is a 75-year-old Florida man who was in New Hampshire and thought he would go and buy a new mattress for his RV. He showed up in some very short shorts and apparently was not wearing any undergarments. And when he would get in and out of the beds, testing the mattress for the firmness and softness, making sure it wasn't too hard or too soft, making sure it was just right. That's right. He would pick up his leg and make the sales attendant feel quite uncomfortable when he was exposing himself in his short shorts. According to the indictment, Eric Jacobs was charged with one felony count of indecent exposure and lewdness for the incident, which occurred last October, but they got around to indicting him recently. He faces between 3.5 to 7 years in prison and a $4,000 fine. Mr. Jacobs, you are a dumb criminal contestant of the week. Congratulations. You've got some tough and stiff competition to get over this particular week. We'll let you know who the winners are. Make sure you vote. Leave your comments below. We'll see you next week on Crime Talk. Have a great weekend.